Hello and welcome to the Dream Team Professor podcast. My name is Scott, and in this episode, we're looking at the top players to target in Game Week 4 Sun Dream Team. It's currently the international break. I'm recording this on a Tuesday. The deadline is going to be on Saturday, so there's still a couple of games still to go. So there is a chance that there could be injuries and stuff along the way. So pay special attention to the press conferences when they do happen. But this is the info as it is currently. So fixture ticker first from Not Only FPL, formerly ffstuff.co.uk, but head over to Not Only FPL so you can check this one out yourself. We have double game weeks back this week. So we've got Champions League returning, and then we also have Carabao Cup. Now, European fixtures are split over 2 weeks. So the Champions League teams play this week, the Europa League teams play the following week, and then the Carabao Cup is also split over 2 weeks. So the teams that play Champions League this week obviously can't play Carabao Cup, so they'll play it the following week, and the teams that are playing Europa League next week play their Carabao Cup this week. Aside from that, there is also a bit of a split with some of the other teams due to sort of TV fixtures. Some playing their Carabao Cup matches in Game Week 4 and some playing in Game Week 5. We've found out a lot since the last episode. We've found out who's playing who in the Champions League and Europa League and Europa Conference League, and also who's playing who in the Carabao Cup. So main teams of interest to me, and they should be to you, are the teams that play twice, and that is the Champions League sides and the teams that have a Carabao Cup fixture this week. So those teams are Liverpool, who have Burnley away from home and Atletico Madrid at home. I think they've possibly got the nicest double of the week. Probably comparable to the next one in Man City, who have Man United at home and Napoli at home. So this comparison in fixtures is going to be quite relevant at the end when we come and talk about captaincy for this game week. There will be timestamps down below if you want to skip between teams and between my team update and the captaincy, but we'll carry on with fixtures. Arsenal have Nottingham Forest at home and Athletic Bilbao away from home in the Champions League. So Forest at home is going to be a bit of an interesting fixture this time, because we found out today not only that Nuno had been sacked, that was sort of last night, but we now know his replacement is going to be Ange Postecoglou, previously of Spurs. So make of that one what you will. I personally actually feel a little bit better about playing an Ange Forest, albeit he'll have them for a couple of days, than a Nuno Forest. I think that Nuno Forest are always pretty difficult to play against. If Ange can somehow get them playing differently after just, something like 3 or 4 days, I would fancy it more for this fixture. But new manager bounce, anything can happen. Newcastle, 2 home fixtures for them as well, a bit like Man City. Wolves at home and then Barcelona at home. So that second fixture, obviously really, really tough for Newcastle. But Champions League night, midweek at home, I think that'll make a big difference. I think the crowd will make a big difference there for Newcastle. So nice double for them, even if it does include Barcelona. Chelsea's fixture run seems to have got a little bit more difficult now from this point on. They had a really nice start and they have started strongly. We've got Brentford away, which is a nice fixture, but then Bayern Munich away from home in that second one. So it gets a bit tougher then. And then from that sort of period on, it does get a little bit harder than the start of the season for Chelsea. I'm going to leave Manchester United out. So again, the reason I'm sort of reading out these double game week sides is because the main focus now, I think, has to be pivoting to Europe as the priority. But then, Carabao Cup, if you have to make do with a few of the sort of cheaper doublers. Man United now have Man City away this week, followed by Chelsea at home the week after that. And it's single game weeks from here on out, really, until we sort of get Prem doubles later in the season. So Man United will be left out. Just make these episodes a bit quicker as well. I'm going to focus on the real priority teams. But if you have any questions about any of the teams that I don't mention in this episode, by all means, put them in the comments. Aston Villa, Everton away from home and Brentford away from home. So Aston Villa actually start a really nice run of fixtures from this point, but we just don't know if we can trust them at the minute. So they've had a really shocking start to the season, but they have made some signings in the window. So there will be new recruits coming in, maybe for this match. So I think it's still a wait and see, but we will spend a bit of time talking about them after Everton and Brentford this week. So Everton in the Prem, Brentford in the Carabao Cup. They will then have Sunderland away from home and Bologna in the Europa League. After that, it's Fulham, Feyenoord, and Burnley. So if they do turn their fortunes around, I think they will be popular next week. Next up will be Spurs. So they've got West Ham away from home, London Derby there, and then Villarreal at home. So Spurs fixtures do look quite nice, actually. So that double looks good. Brighton away. You've got Doncaster at home. Now, in game week 5, a lot of these teams that play Carabao Cup, that play Champions League, I do think there is going to be a ton of rotation for that one. But while they have doubles this week in the Champions League, you'd imagine it's going to be 2 of their strongest sides. After that game week, it's Wolves, Bodo, and Leeds. So if you can get a longer term hold for Spurs, I do like it this week. I'm going to leave Brighton out. I'm going to leave West Ham out this week. And then I'm going to chuck in Crystal Palace. So Palace do have a home double this week. It's Sunderland at home in the Prem, which looks like a favourable fixture. Crystal Palace started quite well. And then it's Millwall at home in the Carabao Cup. Now, I've mentioned I do think a lot of these teams that have Europe will rotate heavily in the Carabao Cup. Crystal Palace don't play their Europa Conference League match, their first one, until game week 6. So they do have a little bit of time there where they could possibly go strong in this one. They have the single of West Ham away in game week 5, and then their double isn't until game week 6. So they could go strong. Typically, Glasgow seems to go strong in the Carabao Cup as well. But there is something in the back of my mind sort of telling me a little bit that they've had injuries to Sarr, they've had injuries to Wharton. I think the new signing, Pino, may also have a knock as well. It does make me wonder whether they might sort of try and wrap up some of their players a little bit and really try and focus on Europe. It's just guesswork. We have to wait and see. But typically, Crystal Palace don't rotate too much, and they're one of the better teams to target when it comes to domestic cups. Nottingham Forest do have Europe, and they do have Carabao Cup. So it's Carabao Cup this week, Europe next week. But I have not ticked them on the list to talk about this week. I actually did this before we found out that Ange had come in. But this week it's Arsenal away from home, and then Swansea away from home in the Carabao Cup. Now they've added loads of new players, which turns out they might have actually just been people that might have fit Ange a little bit better than Nuno. But nonetheless, I don't think the Arsenal fixture away from home is a good one. And I think there'll be plenty of rotation in the second one. So I think it's an avoid this week for Nottingham Forest. And then make a decision maybe for game week 5. I'd already eyed up a few players to bring in my team for game week 5, where they have Burnley away and Real Betis away, I think it is, followed by Sunderland and Midtjylland in game week 6. So they start a bit of a nice run themselves. I think it has to be a wait and see now, because that style of play from Nuno to Ange is going to be so different. Brentford do have a double, and again, I've left them out. They do have some nice options. I think Chelsea at home and then Aston Villa at home. While they're both at home, and Aston Villa are not in the best of form themselves, I just think they're 2 tough fixtures, and that is a tougher looking double. So by all means, let us know in the comments if you're thinking about any Brentford players, but I'm going to leave them out of this episode. I'm trying to be a bit stricter with these teams and players. One that I will quickly mention is Everton, who are home to Aston Villa. The reason I'll mention them is because I know a lot of people have got Everton players in their team. I've got O'Brien. I know a few people have got O'Brien in their team. You might have Pickford in goal, or you might have Dewsbury Hall, Grealish, and Dye. I'm not going to talk about them in this episode. I still think they're fine players to hold for this week. I wouldn't necessarily bring them in for Aston Villa. But I'm going to be holding my Everton players, I think, with that game week 5 double in mind of Liverpool away, which obviously is a tough fixture, but then Wolves away in the Carabao Cup. On to some teams and players to target. If you find any of this useful along the way, do hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. I think we're about 150 away from reaching 5,000 subscribers. So really appreciate it if you do hit that subscribe button, and thank you to everyone that has subscribed along the way. So Liverpool have Burnley away from home and Atletico Madrid at home this week. I actually think they've got quite nice back-to-back doubles if you did just assume that the Southampton at home fixture wouldn't be one with heavy rotation, but I think knowing Liverpool in the Carabao Cup, it will be. But Burnley, Atletico, Everton, Southampton all look favourable. Crystal Palace away, while a tough one for Liverpool, still should be a pretty good fixture. Galatasaray and then Chelsea away in game week 7 sort of ends the run with a bit of a harder fixture. Now, no surprises who my first player that I'm going to talk about is. It's Mohamed Salah. I think he'll be in the bulk of people's teams still, but I know there is a lot of people still having doubts. I mean, having doubts about him at the start of the season and still having doubts now after a blank against Arsenal. It was such a cagey game against Arsenal. That 1-0 win for Liverpool didn't put on much of a display from both sides' attack and was decided by a pretty insane free kick from Szoboszlai. So Salah, pretty quiet again in this game, but I don't think we can take too much from it. I still want to give Salah these first opening European doubles to see what he's really got, but I'm not concerned at this point. Let us know if you're worried about his form, but I still think he's going to be a main captaincy contender, and I'm happy to hold him with the price drop this week. Until I'm planning to sell him, the price fluctuation doesn't particularly matter for me with Salah. If I had a striker spot free this week, which I don't, I'm currently on a front three of Haaland, Salah, João Pedro. Don't think that needs changing. But if you do have a striker spot free, or you have someone that you want to move on, maybe a Fulkrug, or I would keep Bowen, but if you wanted to move Bowen on, for example, this week, Ekitike and Gakpo, I still think are really good short-term picks for this game week. Now, the reason I say short-term is because Alexander Isak has obviously signed for Liverpool, but how ready is he to come in and starting for Liverpool? I don't think he is. He's just gone away on international duty, came on as a sub in the second match, but didn't play minutes in the first. So I still think it's going to take a little bit of bedding in potentially for Isak. By all means, he'll possibly come on as a sub in these games, but I don't think he'll start either of the two this game week. But yeah, let me know what you think. But personally, I would like to wait and see when Isak is starting. When he does start, he'll become a great asset. But for now, I still think Ekitike, Gakpo, to try and target that Burnley match in particular, look like great picks. But longer term, might be someone you want to move on. I'm going to mention Wirtz this week. Now, I don't think he's been great to start the season in terms of Dream Team points, at least. So 5 points. So he got a bonus and some tackles in the Arsenal match. It's one of his better matches, actually. But I don't think he's been fantastic, to be honest. Taking a few set pieces, looking okay, but hasn't really delivered any sort of attacking returns yet. But I do still think this Burnley fixture is one that he's going to probably have a good chance of doing well in. And then the Atletico Madrid match, you know he's going to start both games, so I'm pretty certain he will. So I still think he's an option, but the main reason I'm sort of talking about him is because where I do have this front three already taken up and I can't get an Ekitike or a Gakpo, I'm still wondering what happens if Palmer doesn't play in the match for Chelsea and what subs are on offer. Because when it comes to the matches, if Palmer didn't play, you've actually only got a choice of Burnley, Liverpool, and City, Man United after it. Because Chelsea's on the Saturday 8 o'clock. So out of them, I probably would want to try and target Burnley with Liverpool, but can't go for a third attacker. So do you go for a Wirtz? I think I would still take a chance on Wirtz, even though I've not been impressed. So defensive options. Now, because these fixtures do look nice for the next sort of 2-3 game weeks, I did like the look of going for a Liverpool defender. But then when you come to actually choose which one you want, it becomes difficult. You've got Konate, who did go off with a knock in the Arsenal game, so I don't think you can really choose him. You've got Virgil van Dijk, who we know is completely nailed, really good option. Probably plays 3 of the next 4. He definitely plays both in the double this week, but maybe misses out on that Carabao Cup match. But overall, typically always plays the minutes. But he's not great for anything else other than keeping the clean sheet. He will pop up with a few goals throughout the season, but other than the odd bonus point, there's not much there. It's just the clean sheet. Kirkes is more exciting. I feel like he would be a bit more attacking. Will get those tackle points as well. But even then, I still wonder, could Robertson possibly come on in that second match, or even start the second match? And then probably going to be a rotation in game week 5 for Southampton. So I don't think either's ideal. I had toyed with Kirkes, but I think that price for Kirkes is quite high when you consider that's sort of on a par with someone like a Pedro Porro or an Ait Nori, who I do think are going to be better options, or even a Cucurella. I know I will get asked questions about Szoboszlai. I don't think he's a pick, personally. I think he played really, really well covering at right back. I think he will be good for the team in that position. But Connor Bradley's there. You've also got Frimpong, who we don't know when he's going to be back. He's not going to score worldy free kicks every week. And typically, when would you choose we want to go for an out of position, a player playing out of position. Typically, you want, I don't know, a defender who's playing in midfield, not a midfielder that's playing in defence who can't get clean sheet points. So for me, I wouldn't be picking Szoboszlai. On to my team, Arsenal. So like I said, the team that we're going to be playing in Nottingham Forest in that early kickoff on Saturday, that's a reminder, Saturday, deadline, 11 a.m, is going to be a confusing one. We don't know what to expect. Will it just be more of the same and it'll be sort of unchanged, get through one game, playing the way you've been playing this whole time, and then we'll reinvent ourselves a bit later down the line? Oh, and just go, it's who we are now, mate. Everyone's forward. Milenkovic is on the halfway line. Murillo's on the halfway line, and we're playing through them, balls in behind. I don't know which team's going to turn up, but I do think Arsenal should do well in this fixture. The Bilbao match, I think will be an okay one as well. I think this is an okay double for Arsenal this week. The problem is the week after that in Game Week 5 is City at home and then Port Vale away. So if you're looking at that, thinking you'll only get one of the two fixtures for most of your players, you're going to get the worst fixture in Game Week 5 as well in City if you're picking the good players. So it's a tricky one, the way these fixtures have fallen. I'm toying between whether to go now and just accept that the City fixtures there is a tough one, or whether to wait till Game Week 6 or Game Week 7. Game Week 6 is still tough because it's Newcastle away, but then Olympiacos at home looks quite good. Or do you just wait till 7? Game Week 7, one match before the next international break, and then it's West Ham at home. So it's tough. It's tough. If I was going this week, I would be going potentially short term for Mascara. So Saliba, there's talk that he's out for 3 to 4 weeks. Got injured, I think it was in the warm-up, similar to Cole Palmer. I think he might have rolled his ankle or had an ankle problem, but did start the game, but then came off after 5 minutes. He was struggling straight away. So our new signing, Mascara, comes in at right centre back, sorry. Played really, really well, actually, in this game. Comes away with 5 points for the match, so bonus 4 tackles, and put in a really good performance. The way I'm looking at this is, if he starts Forest, which I think he will, that looks like a nice fixture for clean sheet potential. And then if he goes on to play Bilbao as well, I think that is a nice fixture too. If Saliba then somehow comes back for the Man City at home game and he's benched, does he get Port Vale? You could be all right for 2 game weeks. Now, Ben White apparently is going to be returning. Obviously can play at centre-back, but I don't particularly think he will. So I think Mascara could be good for sort of a 2-week punt. The thing that is putting this, or putting me off of this though, is I've done a few of these moves over the years. Nedeljkovic stands out in my head, although it's not really comparable because he didn't even go on to play. But someone that you start with maybe for 1 week or 2 weeks and you think you'll move them on, but then something happens in your team and then you end up stuck with them. We've already seen a lot of injuries. And so if that does happen, Saliba comes back quicker than we expected, but then you've got other fires in your team, it does set you back. So that is the downside of doing that. Another thing that's causing problems with Arsenal players at the moment, they've just come off of the Liverpool defeat. Most players are on a bit of a price decrease this week. You've got, I think, Erdegaard, you've got Eze, you've got Gyökeres, all minus 0.3 team value this week, which if you're really, really confident on the Forest match, you could just accept it and think they'll make it back. But then if they don't, you then go into Man City and then you're at threat of getting another decrease, and then it becomes tricky. You feel the pressure to keep them on the drop, which isn't great. So it makes it tough. Eze and Gyökeres, I think, have the most potential this week. I think Eze will go on to start. I think he was outstanding when he come on in comparison to Martinelli anyway. So I think most Arsenal fans will want him to start, and I think he possibly will. Gyökeres was disappointing against Liverpool, but that was a tough game, and I think this Forest game will be completely different for Gyökeres' service. So I think they're the best ones to target, but whether you want to take that 0.3 is pretty off-putting. Declan Rice, 5 million, so he's actually going to stay the same after getting 5 points, free bonus in that match against Liverpool, taking corners off both sides. The outswingers were actually terrible, but I imagine he probably is going to persevere and keep taking them while Saka is out. So I think Rice is a good option. And I spoke about it at the start of the season. I think Rice becomes a genuine option when these double game weeks happen because you expect that he plays pretty much every single match. He may not play Port Vale, but whenever it's a European double or Premier League double, he will be playing both. Man City. So Haaland got his third goal in 3 games in the last matchup, but City's form has been not the best. So obviously that 2-1 loss against Brighton, they followed that, or previously had a 2-0 loss to Spurs as well. So it hasn't been the best of starts, and they find themselves in a little bit of an injury crisis. New signing, Shirky, is out injured fairly long term. You've had Foden, again, not making the squad. And someone that I have put in this sheet, but since got injured just before I started podcasting, is Marmoush. So he looks like he's going to be out after a knee injury in the international break as well. So ignore the Marmoush call. But Haaland this week, I think still, if you haven't got Haaland in, I think you've got to get him in. He's been insane starting the season. So 16 points with a brace in the first match, only the 3 against Spurs, but then 11 points against Brighton. And in a lot of these games, it felt like he could have had more. So he has 13 shots in the box, 4 clear of second place. Only 5 shots on target, but there's been a few big chances missed here for Haaland. So it has felt like he could have had a lot more. Where a lot of people are looking at Salah thinking, has he been rather lucky? With Haaland, it feels the other way. Like, it does feel like he could have had a lot more returns than what he's had. So maybe that comes into your captaincy thinking. Oscar Bob at 3.6 though. 7 ppm, 8 ppm, and 7 ppm. So really, really close on 2 occasions to that free bonus threshold. He didn't hit the free bonus in that last match against Brighton, only got the 3 points. But he does seem like he's pretty reliable for starts. So he's had 3 consecutive starts now with good minutes in each. And he looks like he's got a good chance of getting bonus points in every match as well. So I do think he is a shout, but of course, Pep Roulette, always a danger. Then you have Reinders as well. So he's on a drop this week at 4.6, but free 90 minutes. If you are confident that City do go on a bit of a run here and recover with this double home fixture, I think Reinders is probably the safest bet in that midfield. I still like Aït-Nouri. Now, he would actually be one of the names if you are in a situation like me where you can't sub in for Palmer another attacker. I was looking at defenders, and Aït-Nouri would be one that I consider at 4.5 million. Now, the problem is he's dropping by 0.3. It sways our decision making, so he's going from 4.5 to 4.2. So do you get him in for this double game week? I probably wouldn't, but then after that would be a nice price to pick him up at 4.2. If he has a nice game week this week, he'll end up rising. But then you've got the same problem where he's then up against Arsenal. So it's not ideal, but I think I would still, if he was down at 4.2, I would consider bringing him in next week and then just holding him through these double game weeks. On to Chelsea. So another good result for them, that 2-0 win against Fulham. Back-to-back wins now, and quite emphatic wins. Although they were fairly fortunate, I think, against Fulham with some decisions. But now it's 4 away games in a row, including a tough away match against Bayern Munich. Game week 5 as well, away to Manchester United, never an easy fixture. So has the good fixture run ended for them now? I would still be picking them, I think. They look like a solid team, but maybe I wouldn't be as hot on them. So João Pedro 4.6. I still think he's a great pick. He's in my team. I bought him in last week. He delivered. He's on 2 goals, 2 assists now from his last 2 matches. You've had the Lap go off injured. He's the main man. I think he's the main man there. Until Cole Palmer returns, I do think Pedro is making that sort of statement of being the main man at Chelsea. He didn't take the pen, so maybe not the main man in that regard. He did give the pen to Enzo Fernandez, who slotted that way, which is a little bit disappointing, but he just seems to make something happen every single match, João Pedro. So I think he's a really, really solid pick still. Enzo Fernandez, 4.6. Again, 2 goals, 2 assists in his last 2 matches. Finding the net, also assisting. His corner delivery is really, really solid. I don't think he's going to keep the pens, personally. I've seen a few people say that they did think that João Pedro was going to take it, and he sort of gave it to Enzo. So we'll have to wait and see, but I do think Palmer probably will be back anyway for this one. So just a reminder, if Palmer doesn't play any minutes in the first one, you will still be able to use a sub to remove him for someone who hasn't yet played in that game week. Back-to-back returns now. I brought him in a couple of weeks ago, and this has got to be one of the flukiest moves I've made in a while. He's had back-to-back attacking returns and a huge 17-pointer in this game, which consisted of him getting an assist for kicking it at someone's hand and then maxing out bonus as well. He did have 5 tackles. It was a bit of an all-round performance, maybe bar the lucky assist, but I would still bring him in for the price rise, but I don't think it's going to be sustainable or carry on. I think Tosin is just as good of a pick. He's going to be going up at only 0.2, but he is 3.5 instead of 4 million. So if you can't afford Chalobah, I wouldn't be like, oh, the Tosin's so much worse than Chalobah because he's not got back-to-back attacking returns. I looked last season and they're pretty similar when it comes to attacker returns. So I don't think there's anything really in it. It's just one did the points last week. Gusto 2.8. I've seen his name pop up a few times. So he's had back-to-back starts and he's only 2.8 million, which is appealing. But I just still don't think it's safe. It's definitely safer now that there's double game weeks. So if he doesn't play one, he's likely going to play the other. But I still think James is going to take starts and minutes off of Gusto. So I don't love it, but if that is all you can get to, I think it's an okay price point. Korea at 4.9 is the dream, but we're not all made of money this early in the season. So if you can afford it and it doesn't mess up your team, I think it's a very, very good pick and the best defensive pick in the team and one of the best defensive picks in the game. I think it's just a little bit expensive for me at the moment. Newcastle, so they are back in the mix and back in the Champions League. So Wolves at home, Barcelona at home. Wasn't a great result or a great game against Leeds. The squad was in bits a little bit. Barnes on the bench, Alanga was on the bench. I mean, Lewis Hall still recovering, so he come off the bench. That first team didn't look great, did it? But they have got some new recruits in. Visser and Voldemarte come in right at the end of the summer transfer window. Isak has gone out of the door. So would we go for any of these early on? Visser, I think he scored a couple or got a goal and an assist this evening. So despite being out for a little while, he seems to be still okay on an international level. But I still would like to wait and see. And the same, Voldemarte, 4 million. I would just wait and see. I don't know much about him myself. I don't know who's going to start out of the two of them. And I don't know how they're particularly going to line up with these guys. So personally, I don't really want to risk it. The way I like to play, I want to see how these teams are going to line up first and how they're going to function. Visser, we know what we're going to expect from Visser, but I would just still wait and see. I think there's a lot of value around that price point as well. Like if you're comparing a Visser to João Pedro, it's not far off. You know what you're going to get from Pedro and Chelsea at the moment. So I'd wait on those guys. I'm actually more interested in the defenders. So Livramento, 4.3 million. He's got a 7.3 average starting the season. Newcastle have had 2 clean sheets already this season. And I think Wolves possibly without Strand Larsen again. It could be a bit of a blunt team to play against. So I think Livramento could be a nice shout. We've also got Dan Burn at 3.9, so cheaper alternative. But again, it is going to be, I think you'll be losing a few tackles there. You'll be losing bonus potential, assist potential, but he does have the set piece threat from corners. So I think either Livramento or Dan Burn are nice picks. I think they've got good clean sheet chances this week. Now, Crystal Palace. Now, they are exciting for this game week, I think. Sunderland at home, Millwall at home. Really nice double. It is just a single in game week 5 of West Ham because they start Europe a little bit later than everyone else. But in game week 6, Liverpool at home and Dynamo Kiev away from home, followed by Everton away in game week 7. So I think this is an okay run if you maybe take Liverpool out of the equation. And they are a team that don't have the biggest squad and don't have the ability to rotate as heavily as some of the other teams we've mentioned. So I think that does make them appealing. And historically, they do, like I mentioned, go fairly strong in the domestic cups. So the defence have kept 2 clean sheets against Villa and Chelsea, and they've only conceded 1 goal this season, which they're just a reliable defence typically. There is the loss of Adam Wharton in midfield, which could weaken them and will weaken them. But I still think their options are appealing. So Munoz, a bit like Cucurella, is the dream defensive asset if you can get him. Such a good attacking threat going forward. 11 points, 6 points, and 7 points already. He's a tackle monster, absolute machine. But price, 5 million, 5.5 million. Now, he's one of the best defenders in the game, so I think it's justified. But can you justify spending that money when our team values are quite low at the moment? I don't think I can spend it, which typically led me to look at Mitchell at 4 million. So similar profile, but obviously a lesser version, but still got 7 attacking returns last season. His tackle numbers were still pretty high as well. 6 tackles in this last match as well. I'm a little bit worried about Sosa, who played the Conference League qualifiers. Will he be rotating in Europe with him? Is something that worries me a little bit. Otherwise, I would think that he's probably the second best asset, which then leads me to the two that I'm probably most interested in. A, because of the price, and B, just because I think the centre-backs are maybe going to have a bit more chance of playing twice a week. It's not the same as bombing up and down the pitch like a headless Munoz. But Richards 3.5 and Lacroix 3.7. Richards is going up 0.2, Lacroix 0.3. Both got 1 goal, 2 assists last season. So again, I don't think they're going to be great for attacking returns. I just think with them, again, it's like the Virgil van Dijk scenario, but just not as good. You're getting a good, reliable team, players that you think are going to play regular or have a good chance of playing the doubles. But the price is quite nice. 3.5 and 3.7 are really easy to fit in your team, and you can get the price rise this week. So I think both of them, really decent picks. Just, you're not expecting much, but a bit like the Chalobah pick that I had last week. It's not the most exciting pick, but there is a chance that you get lucky on top of that clean sheet potential. So I think both of Richards and Lacroix look like decent picks. You have got Gahey as well, who's an option, but I think if you're going to go for like a centre-back, just drop it down to the cheaper of the two. And while for someone like Nottingham Forest now are pretty uncertain when it comes to looking at European fixtures, I think you know what you're getting with Crystal Palace. Jean-Philippe Mateta, 4.3 million. So he will be a nice differential if you're looking for a striker this week. 1 goal, 4 shots on target so far this season, but I am a little bit worried. He's obviously going to be on pens as well, but I'm a little bit worried Eze's gone now. Sarr injured. Wharton's creativity missing. I just wonder if they might be a little bit blunt going forward, which is making me think the defence probably better picks than the attack. Spurs had their first real wobble under Thomas Frank, I think, but Bournemouth can do that to the bigger sides. I'm not particularly concerned. I think these Spurs players, while it's not an amazing sort of fixture to go for this week, it's a nice enough double, and I think if you get a Spurs player in this week, they're perfectly good holds for the longer term. So Porro, if you've got him, wouldn't worry. He got subbed off after 71 minutes, but Semenyo was giving him a really hard time in this game. But I think Porro's still going to be the main man. Still really, really solid pick. I have seen people say that Simmons could, the new signing, Xavi Simmons, could take set pieces off of him in terms of the corners or maybe free kicks, which obviously will decrease his value, but I still think he's a solid pick. Romero 3.8 is someone that I'm sort of weighing up potentially between going for him or one of the Crystal Palace guys. Hit tackles and bonus point in last 2 matches. And I think it's just a tempting pick for this longer term good fixture run. He's going to start every game, I think, as well, maybe apart from the Carabao Cup. So I think Romero, solid option. And then Kudus, who I bought in last week. Like, it wasn't a particularly good week for him, but he still comes away with 5 points. And he only just lost the extra 2 bonus points overnight. So I think steady hold. And I think he's safe from Simmons as well. Simmons can play in the 10 or on the left. I think Kudus just plays on the right now for the rest of the season. So Kudus, fine. The only time I'd have concern, I think, now with Spurs, with Simmons coming in, is if you've got Sarr, Bentancur or Palhinha. I'm not sure which one of them drops out, but I imagine one will drop out for Simmons, who, by the way, I also want to wait and see before bringing in. Aston Villa. Now, can the new signings turn around their fortunes this week and maybe unlock Morgan Rogers or Ollie Watkins? So they've left big names out of the Carabao Cup last season, which makes me think I probably wouldn't go for them this week. It's Everton away, who are on a bit of form themselves, and then Brentford away in the Carabao Cup. Now, I look back at the Palace lineup, even when they played, I think they played Wickham in one of the matches, and they played Palace in the following round. Didn't go strong in either of them, even against Palace. Even left Watkins and Rogers out of the squads entirely. So wouldn't bother trying to target that Carabao Cup match. Game week 5 is the time it becomes interesting. I think this week we see what happens. The following week, game week 5, Sunderland and Bologna. If they do well this week, I think that could be your entry point to then move to Villa with that nice double. And then the week after that, in game week 6, it's Fulham and Feyenoord. And game week 7 is Burnley. Watkins and Rogers, both 5.2. 3 straight blanks for both of them, and they're only dropping 0.1. I thought they've been a bit kind to them too. I feel like they should have dropped a fair bit more. You got Tielemans 4.7, who again may be an option later on. I think a bit like Declan Rice, solid, plays most of the minutes, most of the games, but he has lost corners to Matty Cash, which I think is a bit odd. I think he was all over all the set pieces last year and pretty good at them, so I was a bit surprised at that. Harvey Elliott's the guy I'm interested in at 3.5. So 5 goals, 3 assists last season, only 3 bonus points. He barely started any games and barely played any minutes, to be honest with you. I'm really excited to see what he can do if he's starting regular. But again, I want to see how Emery uses him in the first match, or if he starts him in the first match. But he's surely got to start at least one of the 2 this week. Sancho, less interested. I think he's got a lot more making up to do, really. 3 million. So 0.5 cheaper. 5 goals, 10 assists last season. So that's not actually a bad return, was it, on loan at Chelsea? But 11 bonus points. I don't know. Could this be the new Asensio Rashford for Villa? Personally, I think Elliott's going to be the better pick. Right, captaincy. So I think this week is a 50-50, or as near to a 50-50 as it can be. So I think Salah, just off his first blank of the season, I think you just disregard that. He's blanked against Arsenal. He's now got Burnley. And then it's Atletico Madrid, who, while they are known for being a pretty defensive team, they've had 1 loss, 2 draws so far this season. I think Liverpool are projected, I think, 2.44 it was from 11FI goals projected for this week, and City's 2.23, so there's barely anything in it. But you would say the goal share more in Haaland's favour, really. So you'd think that out of that 2.44 goals, there's more potential scorers, I think, for Liverpool with Ekitike, Gakpo, Isak, Salah. Whereas Haaland, you think if City do score, you always feel like it's going to be Haaland. So I don't know. I feel like on paper, the better fixture is Liverpool's this week. But I do like the fact it's at home for City. And, Haaland is looking like the better pick so far this season. Napoli, 2 games, 2 clean sheets. So maybe the better defence this season. The only thing that puts me off a little bit with Haaland is so many creative players out injured. Who's going to make the chances for him if Marmoush is now out as well, on top of some of these other players? So currently my armband is on Salah, but I could definitely flip-flop between these 2 by the deadline. Right, here's my team update for game week 3. So 97 points. I had a slow start to the season, but this one has sort of recovered the slow start, I think. So 232 points in total. That shot me from, I think it was 105k to 16,896th on the overall leaderboard. So just shows how tightly congested the leaderboard is. And if you've had a bad couple of weeks, you could have a great week this week and it shoots you back up. So don't be too worried about your rank at this point. So Rofes in goal, 6 points. Pen save, but didn't get the clean sheet. I kept Ballard last week and just held him because I'd already had Saka injured, Fulkrug just stinking the place out, and then Palmer was also injured as well. So I decided I was going to keep Ballard this week and just take the blank and no dip, but he will be going this week. Chalobah, who I brought in the week before that, 17 points, done really well for me this week. So that was fantastic. O'Brien, just a 2. Kudus was my other transfer in this week, so just the 5 points. So my moves in and out this week were Fulkrug and Saka to João Pedro and Kudus. Bruno Fernandes was my captain, so 18 points. Last minute penalty for Bruno. I think he has been playing well, but the doubles are just not there. The fixtures are just not there for Bruno. So I think I will be moving him on. I decided to keep Cole Palmer and use my sub on him. I subbed him out for Brian and Bumo to target Burnley again. So I had the captaincy on Bruno, obviously, and wanted to double up on Manchester United. Rather fortunate, because if I didn't have three strikers, I probably would have gone for Cunha, who went off injured, and I know that stung a few people. So Mbumo, take that attack in return there, but Palmer will be back in after that sub wears off. Dewsbury Hall with a goal and an assist this week. I've been really happy with how he's started the season. He looks like a solid pick, and I'll probably be keeping him and O'Brien this week for the single, and then try to get the double out of them the following week. Salah, obviously, we've mentioned his blank 2 points. Haaland with 11, and then João Pedro, the transfer in, obviously got a nice rise off him. Gets a goal and an assist in this match, and so we'll be rising next week. So transfer faults for this week. Like I said, it's Tuesday. We've got a long time till the deadline on Saturday, so these are just early faults at this point. But I want to replace Ballard. I don't want to be hanging on to an injured player for too long. So he's going to be coming out. I feel like Palmer is going to be okay. I'm going to stick with Palmer this week. If I have to use another sub, which I've already used 2 already, which is not great. But if I do have to use another sub on him, I will do it. I'm looking to take out Bruno Fernandes, who plays Manchester City. Now, he is due a 0.2 rise, so obviously keeping him would be okay. But I just think planning ahead, I'm not going to want him in my team. So I will be looking to take out both Ballard and Bruno. I'm pretty sure of that, unless anything crops up in the meantime. So my initial thoughts, I obviously want to get sort of longer term picks into my team. Try and get ahead of the curve instead of trying to react. And I also want to try and build some budget, because the opening 2 matches or game weeks where I didn't do well, I did fall behind on budget. I'm currently on 50.7 team value, so not great. Now, my initial thoughts, like if you didn't tell already, I quite like the idea of going for a Palace defender this week. So initial thinking would be go for Lacroix, who looks out of the 2 probably to be the better pick. He is 0.2 more than Richards. He is getting a 0.3 rise as well, where Richards is getting the 0.2. So that is all it's coming down to in a minute, is that extra bit of money. That leaves me 4.6 in the bank. So my just initial thinking, 4.6, who are the good picks at that price? And it sort of straight away took me to Enzo Fernandez. Fits in really nicely, perfect price point. Getting the 0.3 rise, scoring, assisting, set pieces, ticks the boxes, uses all my budget up. But that gives me nothing in the bank. Get the rises, get the okay players, but do I want Chalobah, Enzo, Palmer, Pedro, when I'm saying that the Chelsea fixtures are getting slightly worse? Probably not. And I'm trying to look ahead as well and forward plan, because we can roll transfers properly now. And my non-European players going forward would be Dewsbury Hall, O'Brien, and Roths in goal. I can't get anywhere from those players really without having extra money in the bank. So I'm wondering if I could go for a lesser pick this week and then save a little bit in the bank for upgrades to those non-European players. Instead of 4.6, I kind of need around the sort of 3.6, 1 million less. So that gives me a little bit of money to spend elsewhere. I don't really see any midfielders that I kind of want for that price. I liked the look of Anderson and what he's been doing, but since the Nuno news, there's a bit of uncertainty there, and I don't think I want him for the Arsenal fixture, and then I don't think he'll play in the Carabao Cup. So that is a sort of pick for next week, I think. As well as Anderson, I've mentioned Elliott, who again is a bit of a wait and see for me. I want to see if he starts or how he plays. It sort of brings me to more defenders, and maybe doubling up in defence, or going back to a 4 at the back formation. Now, I was going to pick Romero. It was a toss-up between Romero and Chalobah, and obviously got the better end of the deal there with Chalobah. So Romero is obviously an option. Good long-term fixtures. He doesn't get a rise this week, though, is the downside. But that gives me 0.8 in the bank doing that, which can help me potentially upgrade an O'Brien or a Dewsbury Hall down the line. I still also do like the thought of going for a Newcastle defender, Livramento, the one I mentioned. I think the fixtures are good there. I think Livramento plays them all. But that only gives me 0.3 in the bank, which again isn't much. So I think Dan Burn is a shout. That is a bit better, 0.7. So that could get me something like a Dewsbury Hall to an Anderson if I wanted to, or quite easily a Dewsbury Hall to an Elliott, or an upgrade on O'Brien. So I think that works a bit better, and obviously I could make it even better for myself there if I took out Lacroix and made it Richards. Gives me 0.9 in the bank. So I'm liking the idea of doing something that's going to make my team okay for this week, possibly okay for next week when Everton double. Is there a situation where I could just let my team be okay for game week 6? And I know it will take not game week 6, sorry, game week 5, and I know it will take so much discipline when players are going down in price and up in price, and there could be injuries. I'm really liking the thought of having at least 3 transfers for game week 6 if I can. So how can I get a team that's kind of just set up for maybe 2 weeks instead of just the one? Um, the other thought is if I just double down on going for the Palace guys and go Richards and Lacroix, get the rises out of both of them and have 1.1 in the bank. That gives me the sort of a biggest amount in the bank there. And that gives me roughly 0.5 to upgrade both Dewsbury Hall and O'Brien, which if I can wait, have maybe 3 or 4 transfers for game week 5 and hold these guys for the double this week, hope they play, but then they will play West Ham away. Then go into game week 6 with extra transfers and a bit of money in the bank. Could it be worth taking maybe a little bit of a hit in the short term on points, and then being set up really nice for the proper return of Europe? I'm quite liking this at the minute. Maybe between the double Palace or ditch which one. I really don't care out of the two, but something like that, or something like Dan Burn or Livramento instead, and Newcastle and Palace. So that's how I'm looking at the minute. Flexible formation, flexible with money in the bank, and then if I can hold my nerve, not make transfers next week, could have also some extra transfers in the bank for the following game week. That is what I'm thinking at the minute. And like I said, if Palmer ends up not starting, while I don't want to use an extra sub, I probably would look to get him out for Florian Wirtz, or I couldn't. That's actually a downside. Florian Wirtz would be able to come in, but I actually wouldn't be able to go Palmer to Ait Nouri. Like I said, actually, if I do go 4 at the back, that would be limiting. So I would probably only give myself the option of Florian Wirtz, I think, as a Palmer sub. But I think Palmer is going to play. Like I said, captaincy is going to currently be on Mohamed Salah. But I do think that could change as well. Any comments, leave them down below, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.